Welcome to the Growth Ventures podcast, the go-to platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, and changemakers. I'm your host, Hamlet Azarian. In this podcast, we delve into the world of business, technology, and innovation. We bring you conversations with industry leaders, disruptors, and visionaries who are shaping the future and making a difference. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply a curious listener, join us on the journey of learning and growth. Welcome to the Growth Ventures podcast. And now, let's delve into today's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Growth Ventures podcast, where we explore the world of business, technology, and innovation. I'm your host, Hamlet Azarian. Today, we're privileged to have us a thought leadership advisor, C-suite public speaking coach, and the author of Pilgrimage to the Brain, who is also the founder of Think Studio and TEDxYerevam. Joining us from Yerevan, Armenia, please welcome our esteemed guest, Kristine Sargsyan. With a rich background in change management, executive coaching, and organizational development, she has been instrumental in designing and facilitating leadership development programs for tech startups and various enterprises. Today, we'll delve into her journey, her strategies for leadership, talent development, and her insights on the future of leadership and organizational development. So let's get started. Kristine, thank you for joining us today. It's really a pleasure and honor to have you here. So what I wanted to start, Kristine, is we like to go into different segments or chapters in our podcast. And obviously one of the chapters and podcasts I would love to talk about is your book, A Pilgrimage to the Brain. Where did that inspiration for writing that book come from?
Well, I don't know if I can say it was an inspiration, honestly, Hamlet. I think I was in a very bad place, very upset with lots of things. And the only hope I could see was, to this homework. And the homework was, when I was a kid and teen and youngster and young professional and manager and then leader, I was really eager to understand how my brain is working and how the brain of my teacher is working, how my mind is working, how the mind of my teacher is working, or my boss, or my manager, or my supervisor, or my leader, never had the chance to have it in Armenian. Because when I, of course, grew up, I knew English, I met lots of amazing people at TED conference, I bought their books, read them, and that was like so amazing. I thought, we should have our own book in Armenian about our own brain, and that's such an important thing for every single rising leader, or very impactful manager to have, because I absolutely...
So the book helps people understand how their mind works? Is that kind of how you've written it? Or?
Mostly it helps us understand how our brain works. And of course, the mind and the brain are very connected, but I'm more focused on the brain because there are lots of things on the mind, but brain is kind of forgotten.
Okay.
So I was like, what is behind that mind? What machine is making that mind work? I have to check that. Yes.
So what's one? Yeah. That's amazing. So we'll give me like one thing that's very unique about the brain that most people might not know about.
Well, there are lots of researches on this. If you ask people what percentage of the brain do you use, people say like 3, 5, 10. It's not true. We use, everything we have in there. It's not possible just to use the 10% of our brain. But why it's important for us to know that? Hamlet, I met lots of leaders in my career when I would coach, and they had this attitude of like, when I want and I turn on the 100% of my brain, I'm going to just be perfect. And that's not true, my dear. We use whatever we have. We have more potential than we use. We don't know about it. We don't appreciate it. We don't understand that the earlier we start working hard, learning hard, trying hard, experimenting, failing, and moving on, the better for us, for our brain, for our life, for the success.
So is it just like any other muscle? So the more you work it, the stronger it gets, and there's different parts of your brain that you can actually develop? Is it similar to that?
So the more you train and the more you experience, And the more you read and learn and try and test, it has more exposure and it can give you so much back you cannot even imagine.
That's amazing. And they talk about a lot. There is the creative side of the brain, and then there's the analytical side of the brain. Is that true? Is that like how the brain really actually functions? Like some people might be born creative, and some people might be born analytical, because that's the side of the brain that they've mostly exercised, let's say.
Um, it's very hard to say what is true because the debate is still going on among some of the best professionals and neuroscientists and cognitive researchers. So I would not really take the role to say what's true or what's not. But what I learned when I was studying or researching is that, part of our brain is more structured. The other one is more abstract thinker, more of, into creativity. But there is no clear evidence for this. So there is evidence that when doctors were trying to treat seizures, they would actually cut the corpus callosum, which is connecting to the two hemispheres of the brain, because of which they would start function separately. And they would observe that when one part of the brain is activated, they see more of structured behavior and expression of a thought, while when the other one is active, there is more of an abstract, non-structured thing. So that's one thing I definitely can probably say. But for the creativity, purely or analytical thinking, I think, we have been exaggerating, just like we have been exaggerating a lot about brain, the 10%, the other thing, the gray matter, because we just want to believe that there are things that are very unique about certain people. We want to badge someone analytical, we badge them analytical. We want to badge someone creative, we badge them creative. But the truth is that while your creative part is working, somewhere in there, definitely both hemispheres are engaged. And the same is true about the analytical thinking. Both hemispheres are engaged. So to say that just one is working while the other is just lying somewhere under the tree and
going on vacation and doing nothing, that's not true. So what you're saying is most people most people can use both sides of the brain, which I would agree, by the way. It's one of the things we talk about a lot in growth marketing as well is, if you're creative and you start exercising the analytical side of your brain, you start seeing things in a different way. And if you're analytical, you start exercising your creative side, you start seeing things different way. And really good growth marketers happen to have both, right? They're able to kind of fluctuate and really be able to use both of them. So I would 100% agree.
Yeah, and it's more about the potential, both analytical and creative. The more you exercise both, the more you will have both. But if you stick with one style and method, then that's going to be stronger than the other one, than the creative one, let's say. So that's
for sure. And the book was initially written for what audience? Like what age group did you intend writing it for? And who would it be perfect for?
Yeah, we love to say it's from 12 years to 99 years old kids.
Amazing.
Basically, it's for kids in all ages.
Even the older kids.
Yes, and there has been lots of parents who have been reading the book with their kids, and they have sent me the photos and the stories and how the kids changed their attitude. I mean, there was a mom who would tell that because her daughter started to understand the importance of exercising her brain from early age, she started to read, while before that she wouldn't read books. So she started to consume books like, very active kid.
That's amazing. That must feel great to see the impact that the book is having on children and also as other parents. I'm sure that must be an amazing thing. While you were writing the book, how hard was it? Like, I'm sure it wasn't like you just sat down and all of a sudden everything started flowing. Like, how did you persevere and how did you say, I'm going to get this done? And how did you not give up? Because I'm sure there was moments where you were wondering, when is this book going to finish? When is it going to be done?
Exactly. Yeah, I was sick and tired of that. I have to confess that I don't like writing. I'm not a writer. I don't feel myself a writer. I'm afraid of writing because I had dysgraphia from childhood. It's a special condition where it's very hard to remember the spelling rules. And I've never been good at that. And I've been criticized a lot for that, both, while I was adult or when I was a kid. It's like,
I don't think you're alone. I don't know if I could survive without Grammarly. I probably have the worst spelling rules as well, too. So,
and of course, dysgraphia has other symptoms, but this was very specific for me when I was growing as a kid. So I don't like really writing. I have conflict with writings. When I put a meaning into a word, I feel like I'm prisoning that meaning in that within the scope of that word. So, but I studied so much while I was developing myself as a change management consultant or a coach. And I've done so much desk research and reading, and I took so many courses, and it improved my work so much. I thought it would be very insane if I do not share it. And it took me around 8 years to finish the book. And people ask me, why did you put this name, Pilgrimage to the Brain? I'm like, because it was like a pilgrimage. It was like, just being on your knees and climbing this mountain of the knowledge of neuroscience, and just like, just torturing yourself like crazy. Why do you do that? No one understands. Even you don't understand, but I did it. And I have to tell you, I was very much afraid to publish it. I do it today, and I make sure our kids, our teachers, our parents, our mid-level managers, our leaders have something that they can use for better understanding their peers, colleagues, subordinates, managers, and in general, each other. Because I think this knowledge is translating the rest of the knowledge into totally different level. It's kind of giving you access to a new level of consciousness where you're more tolerant, more self-aware, more humble, kinder, supportive, not that much money obsessed, I would say, but impact obsessed. And most importantly, you do not lose the humanity side of yourself if you have that knowledge.
That's an amazing, first the journey, the 8 years to actually get the book finished and completed and persevering through that. And then obviously the moment of reflection and realization, coming over the fears of publishing and realizing that, no, you need to get this out, that you need to share it with the world. It's such an inspiring story, and let alone obviously seeing the positive impacts it's starting to have on families and children and everyone that's fortunate enough to have got a copy of the book and have read the book. It's truly inspiring, Kristine.
Like people would ask me, when are you doing the second book? I'm like, what second book? Forget. I mean, like, I never had an aim to become a writer. You just read this one, and then we'll talk within 10 years, maybe.
That's too funny. You're like, I'm also very busy. And one of the other things that I'm also very impressed about is, obviously, let's talk about your experience as becoming the licensee for TEDx in Armenia. You've been doing this now for 12 years. Is that right? Or am I, how long has it been?
Around 14, 15 years around. 14, definitely, yes.
You're amazing. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. So how did that idea come to fruition? I'm sure the first one was really hard to do and organize, and I'm sure every single one has been equally as harder, but you've learned things along the way. So what was the inspiration for it? Where did that come from?
It also came from a dark place. Every time I have a crisis, something good is coming out, honestly. I think it was when I had a crisis in my career, and I actually didn't know where I want to go next, because I was working as a change management consultant for development sector, all the, popular development sector names and companies. And then I realized that, like, I don't know, it doesn't look like very impactful. And something is missing. And I was part of an international change management consultants group. And one day, suddenly, somebody sent out a TED talk. I never knew what is TED. Somebody sent out this TED talk of Jill Bolte Taylor, where she was talking about her stroke, and she was describing how she felt as a neuroscientist, what was happening in her brain. It was memorizing. I kind of froze, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, if you don't know how your brain is working, or like what's the meaning of it in our life, I mean, you can lose it in a moment and without even understanding and appreciating its presence. It's strange. We're living in an era where every single kid knows how your computer, my computer, his computer, gadgets are working, but not everyone knows how your brain is working, how our brain is working. Why is that? I mean, there should be something behind it. And that talk was like really eye-opening for me. And then I started to consume these TED Talks like crazy. And then I started to show these TED Talks to my clients. And then I would notice that I would work with a client around 6 months with trainings and lots of different methods to make them understand certain points that I want to make about their transformation or change. That is important for them. And then suddenly, within 15 minutes, they watch this talk, and like everything is changing. They just understand everything, take everything on their own hands, go and do whatever they need to do for their own company.
Wow.
For their own life.
The impact.
And I'm like,
the impact of those talks, it's like transformational.
Oh God. And then Hamlet, I'm like, oh my God, this is impossible. I need to do this here in Armenia. I need to show this talks to kids. And then I've started to show it to very junior kids. Like my son was in the second form.
Okay.
And when I was showing these talks and when we were discussing, I was blown away how kids understand every single nuance and details and insights. And that, I promised the teacher, my son's teacher, that I will go back and show more. And suddenly he started to pull me and like ask, like, when are you coming back? When are you coming? I'm like, your teacher is asking about it? He's like, no, kids are asking. I'm like, oh my God,
Amazing.
these kids.
Yeah. The impact that it can have on the children. So what makes it?
Yes.
I mean, so for someone who's been organizing these for a while now, I'm sure you've seen good ones and great ones. What makes a really good TED Talk?
It's always about the great idea, but most importantly, the anatomy of concluding, designing, and packaging that idea and sharing it honestly with your audience. There are different theories, and there is a history about public speaking in general out there, an evolutionary history that is streaming from the theater, politics, these forum magnums that were happening on the theater in ancient Greece, and so on. But the thing is that when I started to coach our speakers for TEDxYerevam, very quickly we understood that traditional public speaking methodology is not going to work, because this is not about manipulation. This is not about the show. And if you're not an actor, better you do not act. Because you feel so bad on stage, and it's so obvious that people will never forget and forgive it.
Right.
So I had to come up with something new. And of course, TED was amazing to provide us with lots of amazing guidelines and everything and teaching us a lot. But of course, at that point, we didn't have, like 15 years back, we didn't have an official, very detailed guide for how to prepare our speakers. We had a very good one, but that was not enough for me. So I had to put my knowledge from leadership development, communication, business communication, neuroscience, the neuroscience of the communication, change management, mingle it and come up with the Think Studio methodology plus the TED methodology for our speakers to generate these ideas or to accelerate their ideas. The thing is, every time you talk to a very famous person, top people in the world, including diaspora Armenians or local Armenians, and every time you ask them about something, they tell you something that they have already told 100 times everywhere. And that's where I say, I don't want that on my stage, dears. I want something new. I want the next level of that.
I love it. So you're looking for the first time they're sharing it, or the evolution of the thought. Where does that thought eventually go, and what the possibilities?
Yeah.
How do you get that? How do you get that out of someone? I'm sure that for them, they might not even realize it, right? So it's for them, they're so used to, that might be, hey, I always say this. This is my go-to answer. But you're like, no, that's not. That's good. That's your go-to. But what's next? What's the future, or what does it really mean? How do you draw that out of someone?
Well, we had to, with my team, study the creativity innovation techniques and filter out around 30 techniques to mingle it with public speaking, ideation component, so we could use these techniques to help our speakers to accelerate their ideas to the next level, or most importantly, also to, reflect on those ideas. Compare it with the best of the research, freshest research out there. So they do not come and tell something that everyone already knows. We don't want that. We want something really fresh and interesting. For example, very basic example that I love to bring, I had an artist who came and she's like, I want to talk about Van Gogh. I'm like, are you going to talk about Van Gogh that we don't know? Like, it's one click short information. You click and everything is in Google. You find everything. And I was not even telling that I myself did a huge research on Van Gogh, won a competition, went to Germany, did a paper on it, and I'm in love with Van Gogh, and I know so many, whatever. So I'm like, tell me something new. And then, of course, everything she would tell, I would know, and many people would know. And instead of her focusing on Van Gogh, we would help her to shift her focus about something else that very much is connected to Van Gogh, but we didn't pay much attention. For example, what the brushes of Van Gogh could tell about Van Gogh that no one ever told us.
Oh,
yeah. Yes. Yes, and that's a whole creativity there is a whole creativity methodology where, you work with the speaker so they conclude something like this. It's just painting out his everyday life, whatever is imagining, what he would have in the role, and then just putting aside Van Gogh and then looking into Van Gogh, toward Van Gogh from the different perspectives of the things that he owned that were very important, that were part of, tools or his creations or anything else.
Amazing. I love that. So you're not looking for the obvious. You're looking for something that might be unique in that story that could also teach us important lessons or bring something thought-provoking out that most people might not have been thinking about. Right? So something along the lines of that.
Yes, because Hamlet very often very self-actualized, very successful leaders would come and they would tell their story like accounting charge.
Right.
Like,
first I did this, then I did this, then I did this.
Yes. And I'm like, you killed the story. Why did you do all that? How did you do that? What was the fears you overcame? When was the aha moment? When was the breakthrough? When was the breaking point for you? So there are so many nuances that we need to reflect so we can give these learnings and the wisdom to the audience and the youngsters. And that's where also you find some of the know-hows that you have and you don't know about it even. You
Right.
never have thought of it.
Vulnerable enough to share your true self, right? Being authentic enough, being open enough to be able to overcome, because everyone goes through it, right? Even great leaders, great CEOs have gone through the imposter syndrome, have really said, am I really good enough to be a leader of all this big organization? Or do I really know what I'm talking about? And those moments that people go through that lower period of self-doubt, what really changed and what made them persevere and helping them come through that. Correct? Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, exactly. And one more thing, just to clarify another level of methodology that I want to explain is, Hamlet, that we forget that because we're late on this earth and there has been plenty of people before us, they have set almost most majority of the pathways for our thinking and concluding things. So we subconsciously think like them and we conclude things like them. So we tell our stories through the pathways of people that, they have been walking on this earth much earlier than we. What we try to do, we're like, wait, what if I put you to walk on the ocean?
Oh, okay. Tell me more. This is interesting. Please expand here.
So we try to also encourage them to just deal with these traditional standards for us to tell our stories and just forget them and try to tell their stories from a very unique you perspective. At TED, we say you have a you story. You story is something that only you have. That's something that only you experience through your own neural pathways, emotions, and lots of different things. So you're the only one who can tell it in a way that others cannot. And if you look, the best storytellers, writers, and all these amazing people, they are successful because they say something new. They say in a way that no one ever did. Or maybe it's so fresh and compelling and eye-opening that you have this new breath, and insight.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it's really, when you become a really great storyteller, you've become so comfortable with yourself and you've got into such a place that you can share the inner vulnerabilities you have, you share the inner insights that you have, and you're not necessarily scared of the judgment, or you're not trying to package it into something else someone else has said, but this is truly how you feel. Or am I getting that?
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, another example here is, for example, very often I tell my team members, like, often we discuss the ethics. And like, the ethics are amazing, but there is this very interesting part of the ethics is that, you're mastering ethics if you know from whatever is not allowed to do, what to do, when to save the world.
Okay.
And that's such a new way of saying it, for example, that it's like it's shocking people. So
That's phenomenal. Man, I could just imagine what people, so I'm sure a lot of the things that you've done for TEDx has naturally graduated to what you do now at Think Studio, correct? So it seems like you are a leadership management coach. You help people. Okay, let's transition from your TEDx experience to that a little bit. I feel like we already are, but it's so phenomenal, like even in this short conversation, with the things I'm learning. So what do you guys do specifically? Do you guys work with a certain stage of startups, or are you focused only on startups or corporates as a whole? Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys do at your company?
yeah, so TEDxYerevam has been an inspiration for us to found Think Studio, and of course, the pilgrimage to the brain book led us to this new approach to leadership development, which is very much neuro leadership based kind of approach, where you try to make the core of leadership development that self-awareness about what are our true vulnerabilities or the potential, as if the human who exactly knows, not exactly, but at least knows something how the brain is working and the mind based on that, right? So, because we saw so many leaders struggling. I mean, I saw so many leaders struggling because of lack of that important talent of sharing their thoughts as experts in a very unique way. We thought it would be good we define this new school of leadership development, which will encourage and develop thought leadership field in general in Armenia, and also, of course, just help lots of leaders to approach leadership development not only from the management and leadership perspective, but also from the emotional intelligence, neural leadership, self-awareness, and so on. So many other important aspects that are very key for successful leadership, but we do not pay attention. If you see what is happening these days in tech sector, especially, it's like massive mental health issues, burnouts, demotivation, disconnection. People earn lots of money, but they still take 100 other jobs to earn even more money, and then they get ill, and they are never back again to healthy lifestyle.
They're never satisfied. They're looking for more, and it's never complete. It's never done. Even when you're able to achieve a certain level of success, that success is not enough. I need more. Right? Is that what you mean?
Yes, and I think that's very much coming because of the lack of this very important part, our relationship with our own brain and our health, and the importance of, in general, life work balance. Because we treat us as robots. We think we can forever work just like robots. I mean, even robots cannot work forever perfectly. But I know lots of leaders who
Like for me and myself, by the way. So this is maybe where this is going to get interesting, because I don't look at it as work though. So I genuinely enjoy every moment of it, and for me it feels more like learning. Like it's so I never look at it and say, wow, I'm so tired. I work so much today. I look at it and say, I can't believe the day is over. I want to learn more. There's so much more I could be trying or testing or taking away from. Is that just a way of me tricking myself to work harder, or what is that exactly? Because I see the other side too, by the way. I totally understand, man, I wish I was spending more time with my son. I wish I was spending more time with my daughter. I wish I was planning an amazing event to take him out for the weekend, or being able to disconnect for 2 days or 3 days. So both sides of me obviously go through this emotion as well.
Yeah, when we become addicted to something, that's exactly what you are describing. And the good news here is that you're still enjoying it. I hope you will not have this moment where you will understand that you are not enjoying, but you're so much driven and you're so much obsessed with the different conditions and situations that you have to do this, because if you don't do, others will do. Others will run ahead, and you will have fears and so on. I hope you will not get there. So you're good, but sometimes please stop, look back, sides, enjoy your son.
You sound like my wife now. She's like, you get to a certain place. Wait a minute, look around. You've reached a good mountain. Look a little bit. Enjoy the view. Don't think about the next mountain you want to climb. Basically. But it's very true though. So in regards to, I think the tech sector particularly, there is this general feel of when is enough, right? It is like, hey, we achieve. It might be, hey, we just got a product to market, so we were able to raise seed, and now let's try to build our go-to-market engine. We're able to raise Series A, and then all of a sudden, let's try to scale this and hire more quality people and keep our culture. We're at Series B now. Wow, and all that happened in 3 years. So this rewarding mechanism kind of I see how it can transform people to almost constantly be running and getting to a point of having this viewpoint of like, when is enough, and I see how taking a step back can be helpful as well too. So I do agree with that side. In regards to some of the things you guys do, can you walk through like how you go about the coaching process? Like if I was a founder and I wanted to kind of get a sense of what you guys help me or my team or my leadership team, like what are some of the things, what is some of your methodologies, and what are some of the things that you do?
Well, we have 3 core directions, Hamlet, and one is purely on storytelling part, that where we have leaders who are at a point in their life that they have these unique stories that they want to share with the world in different platforms, but they also understand that they want to have a very signature voice and style. And that's where we come in and work with them to package their stories and ideas in a way to be the most compelling or impactful when they are sharing their stories for different audiences, professional, in general, or it might be even a backbone of a book that they want to do in the future. And this process is usually consists of number of things. We basically try to understand what are the target for them, like what kind of conference that they're going to talk, like dream conference that they want to share their idea or the story. And aligned with that preparation for the conference, we also start helping them share their, storyline and thought line on different professional social media networks with that same signature style that we would help them to define for themselves. And that would be piece by piece collection of that whole story that will end on the stage on one of these amazing platforms that they are targeting. And other than that, we also help them write articles and tell their stories through their articles or their ideas through their articles, because these days, especially with this content collapse where everything is on internet and everything is accessible, just being a cool brand coming from ancient times and comfortable shoes, it's not enough. You gotta have value story. Your story and your messages should do the value storytelling about you, your product, your customers, your users, the impact you're trying to do. People don't want, Black Lives Matters. I don't give any, blah, blah, blah about this big company. I want to see their attitude toward this matter.
Right. So why are you doing what you're doing, and what's really the driving force, and what's the impact you're trying to make with your company, your business, whatever it might be, right? Okay.
Yes. It's not enough to sell your product, to say, I have a piano for you. No. Why did you make that piano? What added value it's going to give to me? How it's going to transform the music school that was there from ancient times? What is new about your piano? And what's it going to change in the life of my kids? I want to know that. And only after that, probably I will decide to buy that piano or not. And if you tell that story.
It's really true, by the way. It's exactly some of the things we've noticed, particularly in a lot of the marketing experiments we ran, right? So the emotional triggers, the real why of what the essence of why the product exists performs so much better than just the features, right? Like A, B,
Absolutely.
C, and D. It's like, who cares about that? And if you also think about like some of the great marketing, like Apple's marketing, right? When how Jobs talks about it was real, to think different, and all of these great moments of it really encompasses sort of like a movement
Exactly.
or something bigger, or even like Nike, right? Just do it. You're not really sitting there. You're not talking about, hey, this is an athletic shoe that's really lightweight and has a bubble and you can run for really long and not get tired. You're talking about, no, you want to be a performance athlete and you really want to be the best in class. You have to just, put it on and just do it. You got to go out there and put in the work, and you got to get it done.
Exactly. Yeah. And that helps to position you as an expert in the field, as someone with decent values in the field, as someone who wants impact. And that's where we, become partners and we become a team. And I'm ready to buy everything you will offer me in the future as well. That's a big power. And these days, actually, aligned with content marketing, lots of companies are picking this thought leadership kind of approach as an alternative to content marketing, to also position them as thought leaders in the field with specific values and specific qualities, actually. Another piece that we're doing, Hamlet, is this pure leadership development program, which is mainly based on very individual needs of any company. There are different companies who hire us, and they have these urgent needs of developing feedback skills, strategic thinking, business acumen for company leadership. Or there might be another one, that is putting lots of focus on impactful communication, again, feedback, and let's say, team time management or people management skills in general.
Right.
So the second part, the second series is mostly focused on assessing the companies, understanding their unique leadership development needs, and then offering them a specific package, but not overwhelming them. One thing we understood, especially with tech sector, there is no need to pour on them this, rain of trainings.
Right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you help this second set. It's customized for whatever the organization needs. But at the core of what you're doing is it's similar for the thought leadership. You're allowing the executives to become comfortable enough that they can effectively communicate with their team members or their colleagues, and really, becoming much more authentic and indirect in their communication style. Am I kind of understanding that correctly, or?
Yes. We actually put the communication as the core of uh, the success for any company. And for that purpose, we focus a lot on strategic communication, on feedback giving, on, in general, effective communication. And because if it's not there, like, the team is not synced, the expectations are not clear, the strategy is abstract and absurd sometimes, and there are lots of conflicts. There are not even
As a miscommunication, times.
tons of miscommunication. I've been working with companies who became like unicorns or whatever within certain period of time because all these conflicts that were stuck in the company were cleaned up through the communication. Whether you want it or not, communication is the way to move forward.
Right. That's amazing. And so where do you see, like as you were talking, and I'm like kind of thinking about the future as well, right? So here we are, and now I'm at, the leader themselves has built out a thought leadership platform. They're comfortable going on social, sharing their real you and their real why. The team then themselves feel the same. So this, I'm guessing, leads to a new future of a new leadership type of organization where it starts attracting more people who are open and comfortable and authentic. Is that what leads to the transformation of the organization? Am I kind of understanding it correctly, or?
Yes. Actually, we're working very much on everything that can lead to the development of new microclimate and environment that is enabling true learning and growth. Like, our goal is not to polish and create another cool little horse on the white horse.
Right.
We have plenty of them. The thing is, do we have enough of these model leadership behaviors that are enabling this massive team connection, engagement, inspiration, commitment, and learning and the growth? That this is the deal we're signed for. We're going together and we're dependent on each other. That interdependency that is motivating both the learning, the growth, the care, the honesty, the right feedback with honest attitude, and most importantly, the drive for the next level of development. Because I have an impression that we tend to massively copy from each other and paste all the time. I mean, that's how the brain is working as well. We love copy paste. That's how we're learning. So sometimes we're so much on autopilot that we do not even hear what are the things that could be the next innovation that can accelerate or improve something in our life or in the world. We just copy paste and compete, copy paste and compete, copy paste and compete. And that also comes because of lots of investors, and they have pressure on lots of founders and companies and startups. And I mean, we have a lot to do.
Right. Well, Christina, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm sure you and I can go for hours. I've really, really enjoyed it. I want to thank you for coming out. This brings us to the end of our enlightening conversation. We've explored sort of the past, present, and future of leadership and organizational development, and I hope you found our discussion as insightful as I have. Remember, the world of business and innovation, learning never stops. So keep exploring, keep growing, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Thank you for sharing your journey and insights with us today, Christina. Thank you for all the listeners for joining us. If the listeners want to get a hold of you, is LinkedIn the best way, or what would be the best way for them to connect?
I think LinkedIn is the safest and best way.
Perfect. We'll make sure to have Christina's LinkedIn profile in the show notes. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful conversations with industry leaders. This has been the Growth Ventures Podcast. I'm your host, Hamlet Azarian. Until next time, stay innovative. Keep learning.